Hello friends, in this video I am going to explain you about what is API. API, I think you know the name. API stands for Application Programming Interface, but what exactly it is, that I am going to explore and explain. First thing, think over it, the Application Programming Interface, what it implies. It can imply. It implies there is a kind of interface in the programming. Means once you are doing some coding, so there is some kind of interface provided, and through that interface the application can be exposed to another application. What I mean to say, suppose there is Word application and here is Excel application, and these two applications want to communicate with each other. Then how it is possible? So it is possible by the help of application programming interface, means API. Suppose Word has some API. So Word has some API. So it has some interfaces. That interface will be exposed so that any other application can communicate with Word. Maybe PDF application can communicate with Word. Excel application can communicate with Word. How? When Word application is exposing its API. API exposing means it is exposing its interface. Now you have to understand what is the meaning of interface. When we say interface, interface means a kind of abstraction. In programming language, a kind of abstraction. A kind of abstraction means the code which is just telling about the behavior. But how this behavior will be implemented, that is hidden. So when API is exposed, means the internal detail how the code is implemented is not exposed to the another application. Suppose Word is exposing its API, then this API is exposing what the behavior another application can use. But the internal detail how this behavior will be handled and other things, that is not exposed. So this thing you have to understand. And so API, now I read this. An API is a set of rules and protocols that allows different software applications to communicate with each other. So any two software applications can communicate by the help of API. So suppose Excel has the API, Word has the API, PDF application has the API, or any C# application has the API. So these applications can expose their APIs and another application can communicate. So that is the thing here is written, different software applications can communicate with each other. It defines methods and data structure that developer can use to interact with the system. Means within the API there are some methods. Because we know methods does some functionalities, and these functionalities will be consumed by another application to whom the API is exposed. Now I show you practically how it happens. But before that I want to clarify one thing, because here is written it defines method and data structure. But suppose in your console application or in any other application, suppose there is some method. I look here is a simple console application. Here is the program class and here is the main method. Look here, and this main method is consuming another method, sum. So how? When you will run this application, then the main method will be executed. Main method will call some method and some method will be consumed by the main method. Here one method is consumed by another method, but this is not the API method. Why? In case of API, because if you think this method is consumed internally by the application, not by another application. But if method is exposed to another application, then such kind of methods are called API. So this is the basic difference you have to keep in mind. Method is not API. API is something more than that. Okay. API is just for the purpose of communication between applications. Okay. Now next thing is interact with system, software library and another service. Now I show practically what is the meaning of this. But before that, you look what are the different kinds of APIs or what are the different API uses. So in case of web application, they can expose some API. So any other application, maybe a console application, maybe another web application, maybe another desktop application, that web API can be consumed by these applications. Some means a console application can consume the web API, or desktop application can consume the web API. But here you have to keep the mind, web application always works on some protocols, HTTP protocol, FTP protocol, RSTP protocol, real-time streaming protocol. So under some protocol, web applications run, and web APIs are exposed. And what you read here, set of rules and protocols. So that is the meaning here. In the case of web API, HTTP protocol will generally follow, and operating systems also use APIs, because I will explain it later on. Because for different processes, for file handling and other things, some APIs are exposed, and they are in the form of, if you talk about Windows operating system, then there are Windows APIs, and Windows APIs are developed using C++ or C language. So these APIs are exposed, and then the operating system uses these APIs for different kind of functionalities. Because APIs, what I told, they are defining different methods and data structure. Okay. Next, I just show you an example. Look here. This is my Excel application, and just behind the scene, I am opening the Visual Basic application. So if I am developing a VBA, means a Visual Basic application in Excel, then suppose I want to communicate with Word file. Excel file wants to communicate with Word file. Then how it is possible? So there must be some programming interface available so that Excel can communicate with Word. So you go here, tools, and open the references. Now there are so many different references available. All these are APIs part. So look here, to communicate with Word, there is Word library. Libraries also contain API. Okay, here is PowerPoint. So this Excel application can communicate with PowerPoint, communicate with if I remove it, then it will not. So here are the references. If you learn about the VBA programming, then you will come to know what I'm telling. Basically, I want to explain what is the API, how it works, and what are its main usage. Okay, so APIs are, suppose there is iTunes or any other music file, music application, and your Word wants to communicate with music application, or Excel wants to come, then it iTunes will expose its API. And by the use of APIs, your Word can communicate with iTunes application. So these are the basic things that I wanted to tell you. What is the API? So here just I wanted to show APIs can be desktop, for the desktop application, for the web API application, and even the libraries I told you. Different libraries, they also use APIs, and these APIs are consumed by different applications. So libraries APIs are available. These libraries APIs are consumed by different applications. There are operating systems level application, and depending on operating system, maybe Windows application. So there are Windows API, Windows 32 API, and other APIs available, and web API. So I will start a series related to ASP.NET Core Web API. So I thought to start with first of all explaining the API, what is exactly the API. Then and thereafter I will start working, explaining about the web API. So in the next class, in the next video, I will explain about web API, and also you learned what is difference between method and APIs. The methods are also available in APIs, but these methods are different from the normal method what you know. A normal method in your application is not exposed to another application, so these are not part of APIs. Okay. And one thing more, let me see if anything is missing. This one part I also explained. So in my visual application, I have created a console application, and the main method is consuming this another method, but this is not API. API are basically only those methods and data structure which are exposed to another application. And finally, what is the importance? Already I have explained about the importance, because any application that wants to communicate with another application has the need of API of that application. Only if the application is exposing the API, this application can communicate. So API simplifies complex process and promote reusability. Why it simplifies complex process? Because it is exposing the interface, not the implementation detail. So as a developer, just you are having the idea, oh, these are the API's methods, and you will start using the API's method of a given application in your own application, and you can communicate your application with that application. So this is the importance of APIs. APIs simplifies the development, and it simplifies the communication of one application with another application, and developer don't have to go in details how the API's methods are implemented internally. I hope you understood about the APIs, and in the next video I will start from the very beginning, web API, and then and thereafter I'll also discuss about HTTP request and HTTP response. After having all these basic details, then and thereafter we can proceed for ASP.NET Core Web API. So this much for today. I hope you have understood this, and if you have any doubt, any confusion or unclarity, so please comment and I will try to resolve it. Okay, thank you for watching this video.